Mokeski and Derek Gervin. And we are coming to you live on our D. Gervin Big Mo Facebook page, as well as the D. Gervin Big Mo YouTube page. And please subscribe to us so you won't miss any of the shows in the future. Guys, you know what? We're usually on Mondays, but I thought this was just a quiet little evening. Maybe we could get together and talk about some stuff. I don't know if anything's going on or not.
I don't think so. Pretty good. A couple teams. Hockey started today. NHL started today. Yeah.
Well, it was a big trade in the National Basketball Association. Yeah.
There was?
James Harden, who 18 hours ago said he gives up in Houston, gets his wish, and he is now a Brooklyn Net, part of a blockbuster trade involving really, 3 or 4 teams?
4 teams, yeah.
And of course, the biggest name in it is James Harden, who's going to be joining Kyrie Irving, I guess.
It depends on how he feels. You know, it depends on how he feels, you know.
Right. And we'll get into the details of the rest of the trade. But I really want to get on this thing with Harden. I was really kind of disappointed to hear him last night. I mean, you are one of the superstar players in the league. I don't think I've ever heard a guy just say, we just can't do it.
Not after 10 games in a season. Right. We're just not good enough. Sorry, you know. It's just, to me, being a 12-year NBA veteran, you know, belonged to the Retired Players Association for 20 years plus, you know, it's just mind-boggling and sad at times with what players are doing now, especially stars that are making, you know, $30-40 million a year. It's just, I don't know, it's mind-boggling to me. That's the best word I can come up with.
The guy is acting crazy. The sad thing is he's talking about they don't have the team. They were playing well. They got off to a very good start. They added Christian Wood, who I think is a very good player. You still have Daniel House, and they have perimeter players. So what he's talking about, it to me, is just ludicrous. The reason they're losing is because of the friction he has brought into the locker room. John Wall has come back, look like he's healthy. DeMarcus Boogie Cousins look like he's healthy, and those guys are ready to contribute. Steven Silas comes in his first year, man, after being an assistant for 22 years. And it looked like they had a team that could contend. I won't say they were a championship caliber, but we don't know until the season goes on. But I believe they have guys that can compete. For James, what James is doing is making a mockery of the NBA. He handled it terribly. And Houston, I have to give them, you know, some of the blame. But when you have a guy that throws his players under the bus like he did, man, I'm telling you, as a former player, not even talking about the NBA, as a former player in basketball, we would have problems if I saw James Harden again. And I mean that's why he was moved today. There was no way he could go back in that locker room. There was no way he could practice again with those guys. So they had to make a move. Their hands were tied, and there was no way. They had to make a move today.
So let's, in my opinion, looking over this trade, Houston came out great. I mean, you know, they gave up James Harden. They got, you know, but they got Victor Oladipo. They got Christian Wood. They got 4 first-round draft picks. I mean, now Silas has maybe as good or better team that wants to play together and a future in 4 new first-round draft picks. So his future changed to a lot brighter in the last 15 hours. I know that if I'm a coach.
Paul, you think Sam Presti's jealous because he thought it's getting to the point where he's the only one can make 1,000 moves?
Well, I mean, so you're looking at the Rockets roster, right? They got John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Eric Gordon, Ben McLemore, PJ Tucker, Christian Wood, DeMarcus Cousins. You know, they're okay. They're a playoff team. And now you have 4 more first-round picks and 4 more possible swaps you can do with Brooklyn later for your future. I thought it was good for Houston.
You're hanging out, giving guys $10,000, $100,000 bag or whatever he gave the guy at the party, man. It's crazy. And he's blaming the other players, throwing them under the bus, man. I just don't understand it. It's making it. It's a slap in the face to the NBA. It's a slap in the face to basketball.
And here's what else. So you're going to those parties. You're not wearing a mask, and you're coming back into your team situation in the locker room, in the weight room, on the airplane, and you don't know who he got in contact with. So you're putting your own teammates and their families at risk.
Yeah.
Right. You guys keep talking. I'm just getting this set up on our page. We are live, and we're welcoming all our guests in. Want to hear your questions and comments as we discuss the big trade today that took place in the NBA.
Well, hey,
Ricky,
D,
I gotta say, go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
so as long as we're talking about teammates, right? So put yourself in Brooklyn's locker room now, where Kyrie has bailed on you already. And now that you trade for Harden, who bailed on his team, right? And now when he comes back, maybe Kyrie will want to play again. What about the other guys that are playing right now? How do you feel?
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you, this is a unique situation. You played NBA, I played NBA. And I want you to think back. Has there ever been three guys on the same team, Paul, that's been so sensitive? You got KD. You don't know when KD is going to react crazy. You don't know when Kyrie is going to react or disappear. And then you got James, who's worried more about what the strip clubs look like in that city instead of getting out there earning his $40-something million a year. And if you look at what bothers me about Harden, the last 4 games, he scored 20 points one game. The other games, he was 15, 16. That's not James Harden. And that's not fair to the rest of the players that are there that are bought in. And when you're not true to this game, your game will suffer. I don't care how great you think you are. He's hurting himself, and he's hurting his team, and he's hurting the league.
And by visual, he's very out of shape. So it's going to take him a while to get in real shape again. I'll tell you when KD's feelings are going to be hurt, when he can't get the ball to get a shot off because Kyrie is shooting or Harden is dribbling.
Hey, man, Paul, now don't leave out Kyrie's 30 dribbles as well.
Yeah.
How does this work? I mean, individually, those are 3 great players, but we've talked about it before. In basketball, it is the ultimate team game. And if these guys aren't playing together, it's going to be a gigantic failure. And I think that's as good a possibility as it is they'll be successful.
Well, they're not exactly Steph and Clay and Draymond. All 3 of those guys bought in. And even when KD was there for the couple of years in Golden State, that was a threesome. KD bought in at that time. And Clay and Steph bought in. And that's how you become a champion. You can't win when you have 3 guys that are all going different directions. And I know another thing is going to be interesting is with KD and now Harden being friends. And then already, DeAndre Jordan and KD are close. What is that going to do to the friendship? What I've heard lately is it's been a fractured relationship the last few days between KD and Kyrie. I don't think they're communicating as often. So once again, Kyrie is becoming a team killer.
And the thing with, I'm sorry, Paul, I'll just get this in, I'll go right to you. The thing with Draymond, Clay, and Steph, Draymond didn't need the ball. He was a distributor. None of these guys are distributors, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Draymond doesn't. You don't need to run a play for Draymond. He plays the game, all encompassing. And Clay is a classic. Clay doesn't need to dribble at all. He just comes out, picks, and shoots it and lights it up. So they match. It's puzzle pieces. They have to match. If they don't match and you have a lot of the same pieces that have to dribble all the time or shoot all the time, it won't fit together. And you can't be a successful team that way.
Captain Fletcher has checked in, and he said, I don't see this trade making them better. too many alphas on this team. I see self-destruction. I don't think he's far off.
Hey, now remember I talked about how important Spencer Dinwiddie was to the locker room? So think about it now, how important he is. The guy, they also kicked out my guy from San Antonio. That kind of ticked me off, Taurean Prince. So I got to wish him well. But when you give up guys like LeVert and Taurean, and you give up Jared Allen, guys that you know are on their way there ascending, and you got guys like James Harden and Kyrie, you don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis. Pretty soon you'll see Steve Nash doing commercials. What's the grade when they do the commercial for the gray hair?
Yeah, no, he might not even have gray hair. He might not have any hair.
Well, yeah, he might not have any hair in about another month, Paul. It's crazy. It's sad, man. It's not fair to him.
Okay, give me this, guys. Give me this. Give me the upside of this triumphant that we have here now. How they can what has to happen for them to be great and challenge, come out of the East?
You talking about the Nets?
Well, I'll take it. I'll be quick. Go ahead, Paul. You take it, then I'll go.
Well, those three to play up to everybody's potential, or is that even possible?
Well, the Nets now have three of the best top 10, 15 players in the league, right? So, and you have a point guard, you have a big, and one of the best bigs, one of the better point guards, and one of the best scorers ever in the history of the game, right? In Harden. So, when you look on paper, you're like, wow, no one can stop us. And you have Jeff Green, who's a knockdown shooter. You have DeAndre Jordan, who is a role player, big, that can protect the rim. So you're looking at, a starting group that can compete with anybody. So that's the upside. The downside is, who's going to play defense? Who's going to get along? Who's going to give up? I used to always tell my players, what are you willing to give up for this team to win? What are you willing to sacrifice for this team to win? It could be a lot of things. It could be passing the ball instead of dribbling it. It could be being more vocal as a leader. It could be a lot of things. So, and all three of those guys are set in their ways now. They've had their way. You look at, Kyrie has been bounced from team to team now as one of the best players. Now Harden, arguably the best offensive player ever to play the game, has now been traded twice. So,
The upside is those guys could be a heck of a threesome if they all buy in, but that's going to be hard to do. But the upside, that is the upside. And then, like Paul said, you have DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green. They kept Joe Harris. I'm sorry. So they have a few guys, but now the bench is kind of depleted when you get rid of LeVert. And you get rid of Jared Allen. Those were big additions to their team. And those guys brought energy every night. So it's going to be difficult. The downside, Harden's already, a lot of people at my age should know the movie The Great White Hype. Damon Wayans, when his stomach, after he won the championship, and he started smoking cigarettes, and his stomach was so big, man, it was hanging over his shirt, over his pants. So that's what Harden kind of looked like yesterday. And then you got Kyrie, who claims he's sitting out because of what's going on in the world right now. But then we find out he's at the party with his sister's birthday party and not wearing a mask. And then, of course, you have the other Mr. Sensitivity, Kevin Durant. If you say something he doesn't like, you don't know how he's going to react. So Steve Nash has a hard job. I feel for him. And I also feel for those other players that have to be a part of this stuff and they can't have a voice. They just have to be there and kind of wait it out. But I'm hoping it go well. Me being a former Net, I wish them well. But I dropped them out of my top three, that's for sure.
So I always go back to history repeats itself. So when the Rockets were trying to get better and make a run for a championship, they had Harden, one of the best scorers in the league, over dribbles all the time. So they brought in one of the best point guards ever in Chris Paul, right? That didn't work. So then they brought in one of the best athletic point guards in the world, right? Westbrook, and that didn't work. So why is it gonna? I just think back and say, why will it work with Kyrie? Unless Harden will say, okay, listen, and Steve, if Steve Nash can talk to them and say, we need to do this together, and listen, James, you're going to have to play off the ball, and Kyrie's going to bring it down, and now you're going to attack from the wings or after a couple passes, and guess what? It's going to be easier for you. You're going to rest more. You can take your time. You're still going to score 35 points. Don't worry about it. But unless he accepts that.
Paul, this is where the big problem comes in. Harden reunited with KD, but who else is he reunited with? So he can be in. Mike D'Antoni. Yeah. So every time he feels something doesn't go his way, he's going to be ringing up Mike D'Antoni. And that can cause friction, as you know, because now that's going to cause problems with coaches. He goes to Nash and gives him a message from James and all that kind of stuff, man. It causes confusion. And that's not a winning recipe. I have Brooklyn right up there with the Lakers at the beginning of the season. But when you have three sensitive guys like that, and the way the Lakers are ascending with AD getting his first taste of a ring, I drop Brooklyn down a few levels until I see Kyrie hasn't even showed up. So we just have to play it by ear and see what's going to happen there.
You know what's scary about that? You and I both have been around the game a long time, and we're kind of bringing them down a notch. Here in Las Vegas, their odds have gone way up. They're favored to win the East now.
I saw they favored over the Clippers in the championship. Lakers, Brooklyn, and then the Clippers.
Yes, yeah.
That's why I love getting the insight from two former NBA players, Derek Gervin and Paul Mokeski, because you guys have been in the locker room. You understand the game, the business side of the NBA. You know, most guys like us, we just see the game and what happens there. But so much that happens off the court helps build championship caliber teams. Let's go to our comment board here, and we welcome all our viewers for checking in on us on this special edition of D-Gerb and Big Mo. John Washington, what's up, John? He's checking in to say, Nets bad trade. You gave up too many younger players. Captain says the trade reminds me of when Portland drafted Sam Bowie. A disaster. I don't think it's that bad, Captain.
Hey, man, get off my buddy, man. Sam was my running buddy there. Sam had an injury. Sam injured his shins about 3 or 4 times. Without injury, Sam Bowie is a Hall of Fame basketball player. So, sometimes injuries, that's things that are out of your control. Yeah, but give my Sam a break.
Sam Bowie's a really good guy. I like him a lot. He broke his leg in warm-ups when he was warming up against us in Milwaukee. In warm-ups. That's scary.
Scary.
Captain says, Mo, you're on the spot, but I see them 3 not making the sacrifice. He says he doesn't think those 3 guys will make the sacrifice.
I agree.
Kyrie on his way out. Stephen A. says he should retire.
Kyrie?
Let's go a couple more. Yeah.
Well, you know why he said that, though? Put that in context. He said that because if he doesn't want to play, he should retire and donate his money back to the team or to an organization if he doesn't want to play. That's why Stephen A. said that.
I call him Socrates Irvin now. I don't know if he wants to be a philanthropist. I don't know what Kyrie wants to do, man. I don't even think he knows. So, hey, Paul, now tell me this, and be honest. We'll be honest about this. Now that they're not testing for marijuana, do you think some of these guys, man, are smoking, man, honestly, and it's affecting them, man? I'm just being straight.
Let's be straight then. Guys have always smoked, so but maybe now they feel more freedom to do it more. But I don't know if that's the case of. I think it's a case of the way basketball's gone from youth leagues to AAU to all that. I would like to answer John's question about New Jersey. There's no doubt about it. New Jersey just sold the farm. They gave up their future. They gave up LeVert. They gave up Jared Allen to young players, and they gave up 7 first-round draft picks.
Crazy.
They don't have any first round. That's their future. So if they don't win now, where do you go from there? They gave up their future for now, and they're betting all their chips that they can win a championship in the next couple of years.
Maybe Sean Marks knows something we don't know, Paul, because I don't get it either, man. You talking about a threesome, and one of them not even there, and we don't know when he'll be there.
Yeah, he got to know this is not Tim Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. It's not that threesome.
Maybe they're gonna do something with Kyrie. I got another one from John. He says, Ricky, is no upside. Too many ball dominant guards. KD will get frustrated. We really hadn't talked about how KD is going to accept this. Will get frustrated quick because those guys they gave up, did all the dirty work, like LeVert coming off the bench, and Allen was such a really good defensive player. I think that's a really good point, guys.
That's part of the reason he was frustrated in Golden State, right?
KD gets frustrated, period. So, that's just his personality. He's been very vocal. He changed kind of like Kyrie. When Kyrie first came to the league, he was quiet. And all of a sudden, he just started going off on these tangents, man. I don't understand it. And then KD, of course, became very vocal. He's on social media, very sensitive on social media. He likes to clap back at people when they make comments. I'm not used to that. I'm used to when we played, if fans had something to say about you, you just looked in the mirror and tried to come out and do better. I'm not used to confronting fans. And that's the era we seem to be in right now. It's just a different time. And it seems, if you notice, the ratings are down. I know it's a variable of various reasons with the COVID and what's going on today. And, I know it's a lot of reasons, but these guys are hurting the game. We need to be trying to get the ratings back up. It's not good when your superstar players are not even showing up now or disappearing like Ben Simmons supposedly did the other night. This is the stuff that's causing problems, and it's going to end up hurting these younger players that are coming up. It's going to start affecting their pockets. And that's what these guys don't seem to be thinking about, man. It's not about you. It's about every guy in that league. It's about every guy that ever played in that league. And it's just being true to the game. And I think we've kind of gotten away from that.
This is what Steve Nash said. This is Steve Nash talking to reporters. I will always talk to our players about making each other better and having all 5 guys be a threat and working to find commonality on the floor and in space together. It's really a simple game, but it becomes complicated when you put different personalities and players on the floor. I mean, that's what he just did, didn't he?
I mean, I'll say it forever, right? Everyone knows their roles. They just don't accept them. So,
That's one of the great quotes of basketball. No, you need to put a trademark on that, man.
Well, only for coaches, players don't want to hear it. But, Steve, I love Steve Nash. I was with him for 3 years in Dallas. He's a great guy. He's going to get a rude awakening, because it all looks all great on paper. And, we're going to be good kumbaya until all these egos and fragile mindsets get in the way.
Yeah, you can have all the cliches and all that you want, man. At the end of the day, you got to show up and play. And I just want to know how's practice going right now with Kyrie not being there, and then they're not telling us much about their conversations that they're supposedly having with him, if they're having conversations with him at all. And the other players, they look at all this stuff, man, and it affects the locker room, totally affects the locker room. I don't remember a team that didn't get along at all, winning the championship. If that happened, it's been years and years. So if they really true to the game, they need to go out and start acting like grown men and respect their craft. It's that simple. Respect the game, that opportunity that you've been given. Appreciate it.
And that's where COVID is coming into play right now, because most teams aren't having practices anymore and they're doing meetings by Zoom. So that takes a little pressure off of, where's so and so at practice, so that takes a little edge off that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody on that team is an NBA player, so everybody knows that guys in the NBA are not treated equal. That's not. I heard a quote by one of the coaches. I want to treat all my players fairly, not equal.
Not
fairly.
in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you treat them fairly, like Dirk Nowitzki is going to be treated different than Evan Eschmeyer back in the day, but you still get treated fairly, and it's. I just think of what Steve has to face right now, and it's going to be an up and down. You got another thing is you got really talented starting five, but like you said, D, they've gotten a little depleted now with their bench. And now with COVID, guys are getting ruled out all the time. I mean, Brooklyn's playing with 9 guys right now. Other teams are playing with 8. So it really puts some pressure on you. And, I mean, if Kyrie doesn't feel like playing, or Harden doesn't feel like you're good enough, and you might even have them for a couple games.
Oh, can you believe we talking about that, man? If you feel like playing, can you believe that, man? 2021 in the NBA, we talking about if you feel like playing. I just didn't feel like playing today. Can you actually believe we had? Come on, man.
Not practice a game. You don't feel like playing the game. Not practice.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but D, you hit it on the head where gradually, because of the huge salaries, that separated fans from the league. And now, if you pile on this kind of attitude, you're right. That gap gets so wide that pretty soon fans won't even care anymore.
Real basketball fans are getting tired. I mean, I'm getting tired, man. I mean, come on, man. Last night I said, boy, I watched. This for all the people that have insomnia out there. I made a comment on Facebook last night. If you have insomnia, next time the Spurs and Oklahoma City play each other, tune in. Man, I watched that game last night. I said, what has the NBA become, man? But, these guys aren't going to have a lot of superstars on their team. And then you look at the teams like the Lakers. That's why I get the Lakers another chance again. And I hate to say that, but they have unity. And when you have LeBron and AD, all the guys I've seen have bought in again. Kuzma's playing, some days he scores, some days he doesn't. But he's not complaining about it. Caruso's back. So the Lakers are getting strong again. Denver's been struggling a little, but I think they'll get better. Oklahoma, Houston, I'm like Paul. I think Houston has a really good team. I think they'll be better now that Harden is gone. I really believe that. But the only question I have with Houston, Paul, how do they fit with Oladipo and John Wall both being on the same team?
Better than Harden and John Wall.
Can you play them? But they're the same position.
You play 2 or 3 guards now anyway. As long as they can blend and accept their roles and let somebody else take over every once in a while, you could do that. That's not the problem. The problem is more mental,
Yeah, I can see Oladipo buying in. I can see Victor buying in right away. Yes.
I want to get to other components of this big trade, because we got Oladipo moving and Karis LeVert going to Indiana. But Chester had a good question. Do you feel trading Harden to Philly for Simmons would have been a better trade? And according to reports, that deal was on the table too, but the Nets took the other one. I mean, Houston took the Nets deal.
It depends on what else is in that. I mean, You got to look at the whole deal. Houston got Oladipo, $20 million a year salary that is expiring. An expiring big contract in the NBA is worth a lot of money because it opens up cap space for the next year. Then they got Dante Exum, who is a young Australian player who's still coming into his own, so they can look at him. And they got 4 first-round draft picks. 4. And 4 other times they can swap with Brooklyn if they want to. So it's clear that the Nets sold their future for the present, and the Rockets kept a lot of their future and got better, kept a lot of their present and got their future a lot better.
Philly would have had an issue bringing Harden in there with Daryl Morey being there. I really believe that. I think
And
that's
Doc,
why I didn't. I think that played into it. Say it again, Paul.
and Doc Rivers.
And Doc, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would have been a hard move. It seemed like it would have been a Ben for Harden trade, but like Paul said, there would have been so much more to it with the picks. And it was, I just think I don't know, man, with James Harden, I don't know. I would have sent him to a bottom feeder, to be honest.
So
I would have sent him to the Timberwolves. I'm serious, man. I like Harden, the way he plays sometimes, but I don't think I think they did him a favor. And he handled the situation. I'm like Paul talked about, man, I would have sent him to the worst team in the league. And the more I think about it, the more I agree with you, man. Because the way he treated Houston organization after all those years, it was a total slap in the face, man. They bought in. They believed in James Harden. You talking about a team that was only maybe a Chris Paul injury from possibly being a champion? And then to see them self-destruct now like it is, and a lot of it is because of James Harden, and tell the players they're not good enough when you're the one that's not doing your job right now. I can't understand that kind of thinking.
And Ben Simmons is a better player than Oladipo at this point, and with a bigger upside. However, you would be committed to him because he just signed his extension for the next 4 or 5 years. With Oladipo, who's averaging 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game right now, you have a year to evaluate him and see if you want to re-sign him or take that money and go in another direction. And you could sign with $20 million, you could sign a Ben Simmons type player.
But
I agree, but Steven Silas, who won his first year, he worried about how to teach a guy how to shoot. So
you in the show, man.
Sean Hester is saying we'll take him back here in Phoenix, Sean. Tight end, who you would take? Are you talking about you would have taken Harding in Phoenix with the group they got there? Let us know about that, Sean.
And who would you have to give up? Booker?
Harden couldn't go to Phoenix. Chris Paul is in Phoenix.
Yeah. That's the thing I was saying about James Harden, guys. I don't know, a few weeks ago. This great player, but it's just
nobody wants to play with him, Ricky. You're seeing why. He's showing you why every day.
Chris Paul didn't want to play with him. Chris Paul's stubborn, good player. But his buddy Westbrook didn't even want to play with him. So, you think that he's going to go to Brooklyn and everything's going to be kumbaya and Kyrie's going to love playing with him? Ooh, I don't know about that.
And then you look KD off once or twice.
I'm sorry.
Say it again, Ricky.
I heard people saying.
No, I'm just saying. You look at this, Ricky. Look, this KD. After you look him off once or twice.
Well, yeah.
So you tell me how you think it's going to work.
But they said that Harden and KD had played together before, but Harden was an ascending player at that time. He was clearly the third option on that team in OKC. But now he's looking at himself on the same level as KD and Kyrie.
So it's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
Ricky. No, Ricky. No, James Harden is looking at himself above KD and Kyrie's level. He claimed he said himself that he was the best player in the league. So he really believes that. And how, I don't know, because he can't guard his shadow. But he said he was the best out of his own mouth, that he was the best player. He's a prima donna. And there's 3 prima donnas.
Yeah, that's we're gonna follow this, guys. It's gonna be fun to follow this. And you just mentioned something I've been meaning to ask you guys. I keep forgetting to get on the show. They talk about two-way players. I say there's no such thing as a two-way basketball player, Paul and Derek. You're a basketball player. You're supposed to play good offensively. You're supposed to play good defensively. I used to say Kyrie, he's the best two-way player in the game. Well, that means he's the best player in the game. because you got to play both ends of the basket. What is this nonsense about two-way players? Or maybe I'm just wrong about it.
Well, you watch some
No,
guys
it
play
sounds
defense.
good, Ricky.
They don't have. I mean, come on. There used to be a YouTube whole deal with Harden, ridiculous defense, spinning in circles, standing, losing his man, all kinds of stuff. But you know, it depends on if you want to win or not. If you want to win, you need to play defense. Simple as that.
Hey, Paul, you remember that play when Otto Porter was supposedly guarding his man, and his man had disappeared, and now Otto Porter finally snapped out of it? That's Harden on a daily basis. And now I got to give him a little credit on this. This is what amazes me about him. On the perimeter, I have him in the same category as Luka Doncic and Trae Young. They are three of the worst perimeter defenders of all time, and I mean of all time. And then on the post, he plays good defense. He gives the bigs trouble down on the low post. I don't know if it's because of his quickness or he has quick hands. But the thing about James is he has to decide what day he wants to play defense. If he's rolling offensively, he usually doesn't play a whole lot of defense if he feels he's ready to get a 40 or 50, 60-point game. So this inconsistency again. And so you don't ever know what you're going to get. With Kyrie, you never know what you're going to get. And that's not a good recipe for winning. So I want Brooklyn to do well, me being a former Net. But, man, they going to have a difficult time there. And I believe Steve Nash is really, man, I feel for him. He's got a job to do. It's going to be tough.
Got his hands full, that's for sure.
Hey, Frank Grazer checks in and say, do you guys think maybe there's another trade coming for the Nets? Maybe.
I mean,
has to be.
Well, yeah, there's got to be some smaller trades or cuts coming because they have too many players right now. I think they have 19 players on their roster. So, and I'm not sure what the roster limit are. It used to be 15, but with COVID, I'm not sure what it is anymore. But as far as big trade, I don't think anything big is going to come down the line. But you know, some of these smaller ones, you know, possibly. You know,
For the bench. They'll try to strengthen their bench. That's what they're going to have to make one or two moves because as they are right now, I don't see them going very far. I don't see them even beating Milwaukee, maybe even Miami and Boston for sure right now with the way they're constructed. So yes, they're going to have to make a couple moves, but they won't be major moves.
Because they can't be major because they've committed $115 million this year to three of their players. That's why.
Guys.
Three guys are making $115 million. And so you're at the cap already. So you're going to have, you're going to be over the cap.
Well, Harden's making Harden's making $44 million this year. Can you believe you get paid $44 million and throw your teammates under the bus?
Really, I think, and I don't begrudge athletes making, as Paul says, if someone will pay you, you deserve it.
Yeah, no, you are worth. You are worth whatever someone will pay you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's another quote. Put that down.
But I think it makes it easy for Kyrie to say, you know what, I'm gonna take a couple of weeks off, man. Hey,
hasn't he already?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
He's only played 20 games in 2 years.
you guys, I think John Washington mentioned it earlier on the thread. When you didn't travel like these guys trade, you guys made good money, but you didn't make the money that these guys made. So you were dead serious about your job every time you stepped out there.
John, this is to you and all the listeners out there. We played the game for the love of the game. And that's what people have gotten away from today. Some of these guys, I think, really are playing for paychecks. And when we played, it was about the competition. We're from a very competitive era, man. You know, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, guys would fight you to win games. Today, they're picking you up off the floor if you're on the other team. So the game has changed. Every night, your job was on the line, basically. And now it doesn't seem to be that way. You got a lot of 18 or 19-year-olds playing. Back then, think about it. It was grown men playing. So every night your job was on the line. Today is a little different, man. They bringing in these guys, 19-year-olds. It's just a different mentality. And I think it's some of these guys have forgotten away from what the game is really about.
Your job was on the line and your reputation was on the line. So there wasn't my bad. You didn't have no my bad back then. You didn't shoot an air ball and act like nothing happened. You know, that just didn't happen.
Right.
You know, I see so many air balls now, it blows my mind. And they act like nothing happened. You shot an air ball.
And when you guys played, it was just 12-man roster, right?
Yeah.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. See, now you carry just 12, but you carry 15. So, I mean, that was a tough way to make a living.
And there's less teams, by the way.
Hey, Ricky, let me say this quickly, because here goes, this is what we're going to have to deal with now that's going on. You know, the restrictions. Now they want the coaches to keep their mask on the side, on the bench. So that's going to have to see how all this plays out, because now when you're barking out instructions, guys might have trouble hearing you. And when the players are on the bench, they want them to stay masked up. But of course, as we know, there's usually out of every 10, there's somebody that just won't follow the rules. So we got to see how that's going to play out as we move forward. They're trying to crack down now. There have been 7 games postponed in 2 days. So I'm hoping that these guys take this serious. Say it again, Paul.
The next biggest thing along those lines are, you know, now players are required to go from home to practice game. On the road, you go to the hotel, you stay in the hotel, eat in the hotel, and go to the game. And I didn't even know this, but before this, players were allowed 2 guests in their hotel room, you know, hopefully for family. Yeah, right. But now, to avoid no one wanted the bubble. The bubble worked and no one wanted the bubble. So now they're going to be asked, because of the way it's going, guys at birthday parties, guys at strip clubs. So now they're going to be asked to be even more strict and stay home and not go out anywhere, and now see what happens. It's going to be tough. The teams that will sacrifice, I said this an hour ago. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice to help your team win?
So Miami Heat will be really upset now if they have to stay in, because that means Jimmy gonna be killing them on those price of those haircuts.
Yeah, Cleveland got Jared Allen, who I think is a very good center, and he's going to Cleveland along here with Drummond, Kevin Love, who's on his way out, and Larry Nance.
They got Prince.
And they got
Ricky. They got like 4 7-footers now.
Yeah, I mean, being big. We talked about it last year. Everybody's talking about small ball. The Lakers were huge last season.
Yep. Yeah.
The big man game is coming back. It's going to slowly evolve back to the big man. You can't take away the low post. Tim Duncan was talking about that yesterday. About the things that bother him about the game and the parts that he likes about the game. What he liked was how they've now basically minimized those pairs. And these guys are always going to be important, an integral part of the team. And now you can you go out to the 3-point line. If a guy breathes on you, it's a foul. If you're posting up now, they let you take punishment. But the guys aren't posting very often. And what I like to see is the guys call it, Paul, playing out in the trenches. That's basketball. That's the physicality part is what's missing. And I think it coincides with the ratings dropping. Some people, I want to see old school basketball. I want to see some physicality. I want to see the guys that care again. These guys lose games now and they shaking hands with the other team and all that stuff. I'm not used to that, man. I'm used to it. I lose, I'm angry. And we go to the locker room and we have a team discussion and we try to get better for the next game. Sometimes it seems like these after the game, they go discuss what club they're going to after the game or what strip club. And it's a different mentality. And I don't know, I'm not going to say Lou Wings started that mentality because it was going on before him. But these guys need to get back to respecting the game, man, respecting the NBA.
I think you meant Lou Williams, right?
Yeah, Lou Wings. Yeah, Lou Williams.
Yeah, I'm afraid, D. I'm with you on that, but I'm afraid those days are gone. They are gone. Bye bye. I don't think the players, the way they come up, the AAU, the way they're treated, they can move from high school to high school, college to college. It's always the coach's fault. That's just the way it's going to be. And even though the Lakers were big and had a great big lineup, but the bigs are more skilled now, and so low post guys are, they're valuable, but they're treated less like that. And I don't see many teams going into a Boston Celtic, San Antonio Spur, let's pound it in the post situation. But bigger is better. If you can get the same talent from a 6'9" guy as a 6'5" guy, you're going to pick the 6'9" guy. That's just the way it is.
And to your point, I always talk about Andre Drummond, 16 points, 14 rebounds. No big deal. 16 and 14.
Nobody gives Andre. It's like he doesn't even exist, man. It's unbelievable. Him, Valanciunas, all these guys are low post guys. It's like, now, Paul, let me ask you and Ricky, tell me what y'all think about this. Is the problem with the league really because now it's not about so much team ball, it's more about my brand, growing my brand?
Well, I think first let's talk about Andre Drummond. He's kind of overlooked, but who's happy? He is and his accountant, because he's making about $16 million a year, so he's okay with that. But I think like everybody, it's more individual thought process. Michael Jordan, well, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson started to change that when they did their Converse commercials and stuff, and then Michael Jordan took it to the team where he's even making $250 million a year now. He hasn't played in 40 years. And I think a lot of those players has grown up thinking that at a young age, okay, I want to build my brand and I want to have this kind of, I want people to think about me. You talked about it earlier, D. Back then we didn't care what fans said. If you care what fans said, you're going to lose that game. Now players care they care what's on YouTube. They care what the fans say. They care about their Instagrams. They care about all that. That's a big thing to them. And,
Danny Green.
I think
Danny Green had a little incident the other day.
I think some of this is just generational, guys. But I mean, they've grown up with all this stuff.
Yeah. Hey, Ricky, but you know what? Generational, but you still have to think about the guys that are coming after you and paving the way for them. And, this game is about, we always talk about, remember Laura Ingraham said that we should just shut up and dribble. That right there should tell these guys to wake up and prove to these people that we're more than just basketball players, man. We are educated. We know how to behave. We know how to conduct ourselves. And when you got three of your stars who don't know how to conduct themselves, these younger players are looking. And sadly, some follow that example, man. And that's what bothers me. If you look at sports today and football as well, you got fights going on before the game and all that crazy stuff. What happened to respecting the sport, man, and respecting your teammates and respecting your organization? We seem to be getting away from that. And I don't understand it. I'm hoping someone will have a voice and have a brain and remember what these games are all about. These are privileges that we're given to play these games. And people need to remember this. Basketball, that's a privilege. You get millions of dollars to play a game. There are people that work in 8 to 5. Don't slap them in the face. Go out there, do the best you can. Earn your money, man. Earn your job. Do your job.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's millions of people out of work. They're getting evicted from their houses and their apartments. They can't put food on. They have to go to a food line to get food for their family. And you have someone in the NBA making $40 million a year saying, I didn't feel like playing today.
And I think Frank Grazier hit it dead on the head. He said, how can you hold guys accountable making millions of dollars a year? I mean, I think that is exactly right.
That's excellent. Excellent comment. Excellent comment.
And John had a good one too. 12 back in the day, 12-man rosters with 12 pros on every bench. The NBA has 15-man rosters with maybe 4 or 5 really good pros on the bench. I think that's some good. We love the NBA and we enjoy the NBA. It's just a different game today now, guys.
you have, along with that 15-man roster, you have 5 or 6 teenagers on your roster. They're
Yeah.
kids. They're
Yeah.
kids. They're college players. They're college players.
Yeah.
12 players in the first round this year in the draft were 19 years old. So that's who's on. We didn't have any college players on our bench. Everyone were pros. That's why, that's part of that problem also. You know, that's the way the game's gone. You know, it's not going to change.
And there was a
Change any.
level of respect. I mean, Paul, you were one of the more physical players in the league. In your whole career, I think you told me you had 1 or 2 fights.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple altercations with anybody named Charles, Oakley or Barkley, but I was physical, but that's the way the game was. But I wasn't dirty, and I didn't cross the line. So I didn't remember people trash talking me at all or anything. There was more respect. And the other thing about respect, if you did a cheap shot, if you did something wrong, you had to fight. I mean, fight, not hold me back fight, like fight.
Right.
So there was less, unless you wanted to be in a fight, you better shut up and just play.
And that went on, Paul, hey, Paul, now tell Ricky this part and the listeners. And James Harden right now, if he had a veteran on his team, the other guys were kind of nice to him this year, but they couldn't have him back in that locker room. Because I'm saying if he would have been back in that locker room, he would have had an altercation with Boogie Cousins or one of the veterans. After calling those guys out and then going back in that locker room, you were looking at total friction. And that's why James Harden has been moved today, to avoid the things that were going to go on in that locker room.
They told him not to come in. They told him not to come in today before the trade. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, they had the players, no doubt, have the power in today's national basketball. Such that there's no better example than what Tyree is doing right now.
What Harden did. Harden has 2 years left on his contract, and he forced a trade.
We're gonna make it worse. Now we gotta deal with that every year. Somebody next year be trying to force their way out. And then the next year, man, he's setting a bad precedent, man. And then we need to be trying to get the ratings back up. It seems like we're using the opposite effect. We need to be trying to do the best things we can do right now in this game. A lot of people are turned off by basketball right now, and that breaks my heart. We got to find a way to win them back. And that usually comes from just respecting the game.
Yeah.
And we only got a few more minutes. I mean, the time just flew by tonight, guys, on this special edition of D. Gervin Big Mo. But Mo, I got to talk about that picture behind you there, man. Talk about a team. Is that a Terry Cummings I see?
Oh, yeah, that's 85, 86. Jack Sigma, Terry Cummings.
Is that Frank Brokowski up there, Paul?
No, he came after me. No.
Who was that next to Sidney Moncrief?
Randy Brewer.
Oh, okay, Randy. And I see, of course, C30. I see TC.
Ricky Pierce.
That's a squad right there.
Craig Hodges.
Yeah,
that's a team, Paul.
Remember Ice Run? Look at this guy with the afro and a mustache. That guy's good, man.
Speaking of Big Mo, how strong, John Watson asked, how strong was Barkley? I know his leaping ability was off the chain, but he looked like he held his own on the low post with you 7-footer.
Yeah, I mean, he really strong, low center of gravity, and even though he was only about 6'4.5", 6'5", but his arm length was long. And like I tell people, in basketball, you're as tall as you can reach, straight up. That's how tall you are. Kevin McHale was 6'11", but he was 7'4" with his arm span.
That is crazy.
And hey, remember now, I spent a few months with Philly. I was drafted by Philly. And Charles dominated practice, man. This was like when Doc was almost on his way out, and Moses was there, and Tony was about on his way out, Andrew Tony. Man, Charles Barkley was dominate practice. And Charles was strong. A lot of people thought he was just big, like in college when they called him the round mound of rebound. But that guy could move, and he was strong. And as we know back then, that Paul said back then you had to fight, and we know Charles was a fighter. So
I mean,
I'm
Charles
glad
was
he's
a
matured.
he's a matchup that you couldn't match up with because
Yeah, he's a tough
yeah,
matchup.
if you're too small, he's going to post you up and take you to the bucket. If you're too big and slow, he's going to take you out on the floor and drive around you. And he could do all of that.
And Paul, you know and he will dunk it on you in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Paul, you had a little brouhaha with my fellow Virginia Union alumnus, Charles Oakley. Charles was not a leaper at all. What was his secret?
Well, he was super strong, super smart, and he accepted his role.
Mm-hmm.
He was a rebounder, defensive force, protector, and scored when you wanted him to score. So he accepted his role.
And you know who the tough guys, Paul, right? You know who the tough guys were. A lot of guys, they didn't do all the talking. There's certain guys people just didn't mess with. The Barkleys, they might mess with Charles. They didn't mess with Oakley, the Buck Williams type guys. It's just certain guys, their presence alone. They didn't have to talk. They just look like guys you didn't bother.
I was talking to Paul about another one today. I wonder if you viewers remember Jeff Rubin.
Jim Brewer?
Big Jeff Rubin.
Jeff Rubin, because Rick Mahorn. They were the originals with Mahorn and Rubin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Those were some.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding, Ricky Washington, man?
Yes, sir.
Actually, the Spurs had the Bruise brothers, the first Bruise brothers.
Well, that's what they called them, Paul. They weren't bruising anyone.
It was Oberding and somebody else. I can't remember who else.
Paul Griffin. They weren't bruising anybody. Paul Griffin, Mark Overding, Kobe Dietrich, Billy Paulse.
Billy Paulse, the Whopper.
The Whopper. Yeah, but they looked good. They weren't really bruising anybody, but they were big guys. They were nice guys though. That's what people don't. They were nice guys. They weren't tough, but they played within the rules.
I'm a nice guy. Shoot.
Yeah,
but you didn't take any stuff either. You didn't take any stuff.
No.
I tell you, the pair for me were Mason and Anthony Mason and Oakley when they were in New York. I mean, those were two physical guys. And the crazy thing, I told Derek before, when I was a sports writer in Nashville, I covered Anthony when he was at Tennessee State. And he was a point guard, probably weighed 210 pounds. And when he played in New York, 250.
Yeah, I mean,
he accepted his role. He figured out he was a scorer in college. I'm not going to be a scorer in the NBA. So I'm going to rebound and defend.
And you know, I get emotional talk about Anthony. Anthony was my guy. That was my guy, man, with the Nets. My his rookie year, man. I love Anthony Mason. Rest in peace. But one of the tough guys that's played this game. And Anthony didn't talk a whole lot. But if you messed with him, you knew you were dealing with a guy that wasn't going to back down at all. And when they put him with Oakley, that reminded me of a smaller version of Mahorn and Lambeer, two of the toughest guys that's ever played together on the team.
Well, I mean, when people don't realize this, Don Nelson coached the Knicks for a year. And I remember when he went there and he wanted Anthony Mason at 250 to be a point power forward.
Right.
But he couldn't trust him with the basketball as much as a Paul Pressey or someone like that. But he had that vision for him.
Yeah. Boy, and Nelly, we were talking about Nelly earlier. He was one of the great. But fellas, we got to get out of here. Hey, we got so many comments. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. I want to thank everybody for checking in on this special edition. All our friends over on YouTube, we appreciate you guys for checking in. And understand, when anything goes down big in the NBA, Paul and Derek are going to try their best to get out here and tell you what they think about it. And
before we go, D, who do you think won the trade? Who do you think won this trade today between the four teams?
For me, I would say, I got to say Houston.
What about you,
I'll say the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, Houston with the draft picks, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Player with expiring contract, budget draft picks.
you,
Who's the biggest loser?
Hey, Ricky. Well, the biggest loser might end up in Brooklyn. The biggest loser gonna be Brooklyn, giving up all those picks and giving up LeVert and Allen.
but I also Indiana. I don't think Indiana did themselves, and unless LeVert can turn into a young Oladipo, I think they lost out on that trade.
They stayed status quo, Paul. Yeah, they stayed the same. Hey, I gotta say this really quick, Ricky, before we get off the air. We know there's a lot going on today. The President Trump situation. That's the first time I called him president, but I did. And this is serious. Today, let's not fight out here. Let's judge people by their character, not by the color of their skin. And I mean that sincerely. We got to start moving forward, trying to make this a better world. And 2021 is just starting. Let's have a better year. Let's start respecting each other once again, like we were in the past. And what the things that have happened, a lot of them are out of our control. But what is in our control is we can do things moving forward, start respecting each other and loving one another. And to me, that's very important. That's more than any basketball I've ever touched in my life. Let's love one another and treat each other like human beings.
Absolutely. And that goes for John Washington, who says, Big Mo, I used to boo you when you would come to the Spectrum.
I know you did. I know all those people did in Chicago and Detroit and Philly and Boston. I know. That's okay though. I forgive you.
Is there anyone that get booed in Philly?
Yeah, exactly. Even their home team never got booed.
Well, hey, they moved.
Only probably Hey, Ricky, there's only two people that get booed in Philly. That's Iverson and Dr. J.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, for Paul Mokeski, Derek Gervin, I'm Ricky Hampton. God bless. Good night. See you Monday.
Everybody have a good night. Ricky, I love you guys. Have a great night.
Another good trade over the weekend.